Okay, and we're rolling. So, hello and welcome. This is the review of my battery, the extra battery that I fitted to the Fiido T1, right? So, just to explain, I've taken a spare battery that I had from this bike here. This is the Sheng Milo. It's a 17.5 hour amp battery, and it's a bit smaller. It's one of these, and I've adapted it here for the T1, right? The battery in the T1, for those that don't know, is normally a very big heavy battery that slides in here, and it weighs about I think it's 13.2 pounds. This one is 17 amp hour, which is almost as big as it in capacity, but it's physically a bit smaller, not that much, but it's really lighter. It's 6 pounds lighter. In fact, it only weighs about 7 pounds. So anyway, it's a spare battery. I had this spare battery to buy from Sheng Milo costs typically €395 or something in that order. A replacement battery is to have a spare battery for the big one here, to have a duplicate battery. That will cost about €670. And it's very, very heavy. So imagine carrying both of these if you were on a longer trip or something like this. So anyway, since I had the battery, I decided it was a good idea to adopt. This is of course a 48 volt system. This is why I was able to adopt this battery. So to adopt it, I had to get, well, I didn't have to, but I got one of these cradles. This is, as you can see here, this is fitted on a spare cradle. I'll move around here and have a look. And the wire for the battery, it comes with the cradle and the wire, this connecting wire, and I modified the wire at the end. We'll get on to that in a minute. But I also modified the side of the battery, the cradle. I put a hole going out of the cradle, as you can see here, and that only took about 5 minutes to do. So it's gone out of the side of the battery. In fact, I cut a chink out of the side of the corner of the battery, which I didn't really mind doing, instead of having the cable coming out here, because you'll see when it mounts onto the bike, you couldn't really have the cable coming out here. Okay. Now also on the cradle, there's a mounting rail here, which is normally in the cradle, inside the cradle. I reversed it and took it on the outside, and as you'll see when it slides in, that actually fits perfectly in this here. It doesn't hold it in completely, but it slides in, so it holds it from going to left or right. Okay, I'll show the battery in a moment when it's mounted, and I tie it in with bungee cords and so on. Now for the connectors, as you can see with the connector here, this big connector for the original battery, I couldn't actually get a D-type connector for this, a male or a female connector for this, to put on to the end of the battery cable. So instead I got these two spades and I color coded them, yellow for positive, and you have to make sure if you're doing that, this is one here close to me to this side of the bike on the left, that's the positive, and I marked it accordingly, yellow and blue, positive and negative respectively. So you have to make sure the brown wire, as you can see there, is going to the negative. Now the only thing I have to do with this, it's working, I've had it out working, it's grand, it's fine, but the only thing I have to do is actually solder these in when I get a chance and tape them up properly to make good of them. But it's important to keep them color coded, because when you push it in here into both of these connections, you don't get the wrong one. If anybody does have or does know of a connector which can be sourced that will fit into this, a big one like this, do let me know. Put it into the comments please at the bottom, and I'll order one. But anyway, for now it'll be working like this. So that's that. So now let's see what it's like when it's mounted. Okay, so here's the battery mounted here, and as I say, for the purpose of the video here, I've just connected the two connectors in here. It's very important not to short these connectors out. So for the purpose of the video, it's good for demonstration here, but before I bring it cycling, and I have had it out cycling, it's important to solder in these and also make good with insulation. I'm going to put some crocodile tape over and so on. But that's it. The battery is mounted. It simply slides in with the slot nicely down that steel metal slot I inverted, and it goes down onto it and holds on. It sits there and I'm using this modified bungee cord. It's the standard, I don't know, 1 foot bungee cord, and as you can see here, I've shortened it by putting a couple of knots on it, so the tension is very, very good. So what I've found so far on the road is that actually that battery stays on quite well. It doesn't really rock over and back. It can't really rock because of the rail I showed you in the bottom of the cradle, and it stays on quite well. So it's 17 amp hour. It's a good deal lighter and a little bit smaller looking than the official battery, and it's nice to be able to use. So to switch it on, it's very important to be aware of this when you're manipulating these batteries and putting them in and out, is to keep the main switch off. So you have to switch the switch on for the battery, and you also have to turn on the ignition the same as you do normally in the T1. Okay, so to switch it on, it's connected in now, switch it on, and then you come up to power as usual, and there it is, power, lights, everything. Okay, so I haven't noted any difference so far. I tested it on a fairly steep hill the other day, going up for a few minutes. I went about, I don't know, probably a mile and a half or something, and it was the very, very same as the other battery in terms of performance. It is 6 pounds lighter, so it's worthwhile using. So really you could put any 48 volt battery that you had in here, if you had a spare battery or you wanted a cheaper one or whatever it is. In my case I had a spare battery, so I wanted to use it rather than buying a second battery. Okay, so that's the battery from the Sheng Milo, 48 volts, 17 amp hour. If you have a smaller battery, no problem, you can use that as well. Now I expect from this, I made a couple of videos about the battery performance of the official 20 amp hour battery that comes with the Fiido T1, and I found that that's given me 25 miles if you use full power and PAS 3 and all of that, and with PAS 2 limiting, which is very good, at 20 miles per hour, you'll get up to 35, 36, 38 miles per charge on that battery. So I'm expecting this to be a bit smaller. It's 17 amp hour, but not that much, and it's 6 pounds lighter. I'm expecting it probably to be 18 to 20 miles with using PAS 3, and if you only use PAS 2 and you use the pedals a bit more, it might do 28 miles or 27 miles or something like that per charge. So it's a well worthwhile battery, and hopefully if I'm going longer journeys I'll be able to bring the two batteries with me. Okay, so this is the official bag that came with the battery when I ordered it as a spare battery. That came with the Sheng Milo MX02 bike originally. So this battery fits perfectly into this bag. Unfortunately, the official battery, the big one, the 20 amp hour battery for the T1, does not fit into this bag. It's a pity, it's too long. But it does, however, fit into this bag. So you could actually carry it along and it'll fit neatly into that rucksack there. So this is designed to be strapped on like that. You have the straps here. It's designed to be strapped on to the rear carrier, and you can carry it as a spare battery. So and it's a zip on the whole lot, so it's all quite nice really. But anyway, cases and bags and all of that, pretty easy to carry. So it's only 7 pounds extra weight if you wanted to carry it as a spare battery. And if you're just riding around town with it and you leave the main battery at home, you're saving a weight of 6 pounds, and it's nearly as big in capacity as the official battery. So I think it'll work out pretty good. As an option, you can also of course put on a second bungee cord around here if you wanted to. I don't think there's need for it from what I've seen. It doesn't come out, it doesn't feel any different with the potholes or anything like that. It's quite good. The main problem is this securing these connectors here. But at the moment they seem to be good, and hopefully they'll work out good. So that's that, yeah. The Sheng Milo battery fitted to the Fiido T1, yeah, okay. Other little updates on the bike. I've recently fitted this center console, and I've fitted actually some of the tape. I've put some of the tape on it here. It's a reflective tape, the white and the amber colour. I think it improves the looks a little bit better, maybe. Maybe not. It's okay, I think. And I could also fit some of this amber tape maybe on the side of the battery. I'll consider that. A little bit of that, but it just helps light up the bike a little bit. Other than that, I'm finding I've done a few miles at this stage on the bike. Yeah, probably 200 miles or something like that. There's no odometer on this thing, but I'm told that the new display from the end of June, you can order it on the website. It will actually have an odometer to record the miles, and you can switch it to miles from kilometers as well. So that's the other thing. The brakes are holding up okay. The cable brakes, it needs a bit of adjusting now and again. You have to adjust the cables, but it's not a big deal. It's 5-minute affair really. And apart from that, the bike is going very well. It's really delightful. It's very powerful for going up hills, and very, very lively. So that's why it's so hard on the battery. It loves its power and speed. But the maximum speed is 24 miles per hour that I can get out of it, which is plenty. Normally I ride at the PAS 2, and that gives me 19 miles per hour, 19-20, and it's just fine. It's okay. Right. Now, by the way, the official charger for the Sheng Milo battery, I ordered this separately as a spare one from Sheng Milo. This is a 48-volt charger. It's a 2-amp charger, and it has a different connector from the official battery. So I do have 2 chargers now for this bike, one for each battery. It's not a bad thing, and if one of them failed, I could always modify the end of this or something with the connectors to make it fit and charge the other battery. So it's no harm to have a spare charger, but this one actually does the Sheng Milo. The official charger takes a different cord. It's kind of an RCA 3-pin affair connector on the side of the battery, so the connector is different. But anyway, that's just to let you know. So to make this change, I've had to have the battery. I've had to have a different charger, which wasn't too expensive or anything. I think €28 maybe, a spare charger. And in my opinion, I had to have the cradle for mounting the battery, which is attached to the battery permanently now. You don't need the cradle. You could just simply solder the cables into the battery if you wanted to, and carefully, and then switch it on. And insulate it and all of that. You could get away that way. I just think it's just better because the cradle doesn't actually weigh much, in fact, for this battery. So it was just better to have it, and it didn't cost too much extra. I can't remember what it was, maybe €20 or something like that. Okay, so that's that.